at 7:33 p.m. Clerk Bruckman, has the meeting been properly noticed?
The meeting has been posted and noticed according to law.
Thank you. And would you please, you just told me about the role, about it. We need to do it officially, don't we?
Yep, sure. Trustee Amenta.
Here.
Trustee Carpenter.
I'm here.
Trustee Ursink.
Here.
Trustee Bachhorst.
Here.
And Trustee Stokebrand.
Here.
And I don't see Trustee Warren on yet. So I'll note his time when he comes in.
Okay, thank you. Because of the,
Point of parliamentary procedure.
yes, Trustee Bachhorst.
Where is President Rozek?
I don't know. That's why I'm running the meeting.
Oh, well, I figured you'd know since you're running the meeting. Sorry.
I'm not sure. She just said she could not make it.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Clerk Bruckman, is there the protocol you need to do about the virtual meeting?
No, we're good. So we can just move into the special order of business.
Okay, item 4A, proclamation for trustees Amenta, Carpenter, and President Rozek.
Trustee Stokebrand,
Yes, Trustee Bachhorst.
from whom is this proclamation?
Pardon me?
Who is the author of the proclamation? Sorry, I'm still getting back to my office.
The village hall was.
Did you see the packet? It's in the packet.
I understand, but you have the packet in front of you and I'm just getting back to the office. So who's the author?
It was staff at Village Hall.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can remember. My memory is not that great. Thanks.
Okay, so I think the first one was written by Manager Ewald. And then the other ones were by President Rozek, the other two. So is there any discussion?
I
think we were going to read them. I think Manager Ewald was going to read one for President Rozek. President Rozek was going to read the ones for Trustee Carpenter and Trustee Amenta. I believe, Rebecca, please correct me if I'm wrong, you could read all three if that's okay.
Otherwise, I'd be happy to read the two for Trustee Amenta and Trustee Carpenter. If Manager Ewald, would you please read the first one for President Rozek?
Oh, and Trustee Stokebrand, this is Trustee Bachhorst.
Trustee Bachhorst.
Yes, I'd like to defer the other two. Go ahead and read the one by Village Manager Ewald, but let's defer the other two so that that President Rozek can be present for the proclamation. So I'd move to defer the second two.
Is there a second to the motion?
A point of order. So the proclamations have actually already been signed. Because proclamations don't require board approval.
Oh.
In terms of honoring people who are leaving the board, we've typically read them during the special order of business to recognize the hard years of service that people have accomplished. Trustee Stokebrand, if you'd like to read the proclamations for both Trustee Amenta and Trustee Carpenter, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
I would. Would you want to start with the one for President Rozek?
Be happy to.
Thank you.
Whereas Allison Rozek accepted the call to public service and became a member of the Shorewood Village Board in 2016. And whereas Allison Rozek during her 5-year tenure served as village trustee from 2016 to 2018 and as village president from 2018 to 2021. And whereas Allison Rozek in her capacity of village trustee served as board liaison to numerous boards, committees, and commissions, and as village president served as the chair of the Plan Commission, and was also a member of the North Shore Fire Department Board of Directors. And whereas Allison Rozek in her capacity of both village trustee and village president served in a diligent manner, exemplifying and maintaining the high standards of public service, which the residents of Shorewood have come to expect and enjoy. And whereas in her leadership role, Allison Rozek, in addition to addressing issues which affected the community as a whole, made a sincere and thoughtful effort to resolve concerns of individual constituents as well. And whereas the village board of the village of Shorewood deems it most appropriate and fitting to publicly acknowledge many contributions of Allison Rozek to the village of Shorewood. Now therefore, I, Rebecca Ewald, Village Manager for the Village of Shorewood, Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, do hereby express the appreciation of the residents of Shorewood to Allison Rozek and present this proclamation honoring Allison Rozek for her outstanding service to the Village of Shorewood. Dated in the Village of Shorewood, Wisconsin, this 19th day of April, 2021.
Thank you. I will continue. Proclamation, whereas Davida Amenta accepted the call to public service when she was elected as a village trustee of the Village of Shorewood on Tuesday, April 7th, 2015. And whereas Davida Amenta during her 6-year tenure served in that capacity in a diligent manner, exemplifying and maintaining the high standards of public service, which the residents of Shorewood have come to expect and enjoy. And whereas in her leadership role as chair of several standing committees, Davida Amenta, in addition to addressing issues which affect the community as a whole, made a sincere and thoughtful effort to resolve concerns affecting individual constituents. And whereas the Village Board of the Village of Shorewood deems it most appropriate and fitting to publicly acknowledge the many contributions of Davida Amenta to the Village of Shorewood, now therefore I, Kathy Stokerbrand, a trustee of the Village of Shorewood, Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, do hereby express the appreciation of the residents of Shorewood to Davida Amenta and present this proclamation honoring Davida Amenta for her outstanding service to the Village of Shorewood. Dated in the Village of Shorewood, Shorewood, Wisconsin, 19th day of April, 2021. And continuing, proclamation, whereas Jessica Carpenter accepted the call to public service when she was elected as a trustee of the Village of Shorewood on April 4th, 2018. And whereas Jessica Carpenter during her 4-year tenure served in that capacity in a diligent manner, exemplifying and maintaining the high standards of public service which the residents of Shorewood have come to expect and enjoy. And whereas in her leadership role as chair of several standing committees, Jessica Carpenter, in addition to addressing issues which affect the community as a whole, made a sincere and thoughtful effort to resolve concerns affecting individual constituents. And whereas the Village Board of the Village of Shorewood deems it most appropriate and fitting to publicly acknowledge the many contributions of Jessica Carpenter to the Village of Shorewood. Now, therefore, I, Kathy Stokerbrand, a trustee of the Village of Shorewood, Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, do hereby express the appreciation of the residents of Shorewood to Jessica Carpenter and present this proclamation honoring Jessica Carpenter for her outstanding service to the Village of Shorewood. Dated in the Village of Shorewood, Wisconsin, this 19th day of April. And thank you to you all. Moving on then, we are to the consent agenda, item 5.
So moved.
Oops.
Trustee Stokebrand,
I'm sorry. Yes, Trustee Carpenter?
are we, I heard a motion to approve the consent agenda. I believe that was what Trustee Bachhorst was.
Yes, I'm sorry. And then
Exactly.
I couldn't
I
find my,
move to approve the consent agenda.
and was there a second?
Second.
And are there any items to pull?
I'd like to pull, where's that, F? Yes, F, please.
Yes. So we will take a vote on the first items and then move on to item F. Is that correct, Clerk Bruckman?
Yep, so this is to approve the consent agenda with item F removed. Trustee Bachhorst,
Yes.
Trustee Amenta,
Aye. Aye.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter,
Aye.
Trustee Ursing.
Aye.
Trustee Stokerbrand.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. And then we'll take up item F.
Okay. I had a few questions on item F also though, but would you please proceed, Trustee Carpenter?
Yeah, I just wanted to understand a little bit more, a couple of things, the social distancing protocols that would be followed. And then I just have some concern. I know that the kids' bike race is a big part of the bike race, but the idea that the only group that is not vaccinated, that we are looking to get all of them together, to me is kind of difficult to swallow. And then my last kind of comment / question, I saw some of the numbers of what this costs to put the event on. And I just want to make sure that if we're putting this on, that it's going to be beneficial to all of the businesses, because there is obviously a cost to do that. So I think, Steph, I saw you just pop on.
Yeah.
Maybe you could answer
Salvia,
some of those.
did you want to address the questions?
Yes, please. Okay, so the first one was about the kids race. I did speak to the health department about the kids race, because that is, one of the most kind of popular community aspects of the races. And they actually didn't seem to have any issues with it. They're obviously hoping that all kids, that are old enough would be masked, and then, just try to space out the age limits a little bit more, because I know they race kind of by groups. So that was that one. I'm sorry, I was trying to jot down all the rest of your questions.
Oh,
What
yeah.
else?
So my other question was really just about social distancing and how that's going to be enforced in the business district, because, by then, actually by today, everybody who, wants a vaccine can get a vaccine. But, how do we ensure that people are making good choices, and, who's enforcing masks and, all of that?
Yeah, so I mean, there's not going to be really a way for us to enforce. We are going to be doing heavy, constant reminding of masking. That will also be happening over the loudspeakers. We're going to extend the sound down into the district a little bit more, so they'll be able to make announcements about reminders to keep masks on and social distancing. And then in the block party area, which is usually kind of where the Kensington block party is kind of usually associated with the races, that group talked about making kind of pods out of tables and encouraging, people to hang out with their pods, so everything would be social distance there. The health department also suggested that be kind of the main place where people are doing eating and drinking, so they're not just walking around eating and drinking. So it's going to be a ton of, just a lot of constant reminders, letters going out, and then with kind of like our rules about how we want to make sure that we're keeping everyone safe, working with the businesses in the same regard, and just kind of like a lot of, reminders and that sort of thing.
Thank you. Trustee Carpenter, did that answer your questions?
Yeah, and my only other question was about, what does it take, or what does it entail for it to be a successful event? Obviously, the purpose of it is to be a fun event, but also we want it to drive business to the business district. So is there like a number of people that we want to get or to attract for that event?
Yeah, so one of the ways we thought of kind of trying to do, have kind of the restaurants do grab and go, like for the bike races. So like kind of bike race party packages that people who, wanted to, especially people around the course, could actually pick up food from local businesses and take those actually back to their home, or, find other areas kind of that they would want to hang out instead of like feeling so crowded. So that was just one area of trying to bring in other businesses. That's just one example. We're going to try to figure out some other creative ways to get more of the district involved.
Okay, Trustee Warren. I had some questions too, but Trustee Warren?
Yeah, I want to make sure I didn't mishear something, and I am not the expert on this, so
Please feel free to tell me if I'm wrong. Steph, you mentioned that we would want people congregating, getting food and drink and staying in that Kensington area and not wandering around. I'm surprised that's the recommendation instead of getting people to disperse out of the area to give people more space. Is that right? And again, I'm not quibbling with the North Shore Health Department. They're obviously the experts, but I want to make sure I'm understanding what the recommendation is.
Yeah, the health department is actually thinking that if that we kind of limit how many people are moving into that area as well. So Three Lions staff said they've done this kind of stuff for World Cup where you can't just be wandering out with food and drink. And I guess the reason the health department said that is like when people have their masks down, then they're walking around eating, drinking. That's more of an issue than sitting in an area, having a drink and eating your food and then leaving the area. So I think that was their main reasoning for kind of trying to do it that way instead.
Did you have anything further, Trustee Warren?
No, thank you.
Okay, so my understanding is we're going to encourage table side behavior, right? And so people will go to, I'm assuming they'll hopefully have an outdoor place to hand where you buy your food, right? A concession, a cash register. My questions were about some of the timing issues. We're moving this to a Friday instead of a Thursday. And so my questions were about the different times on the forms. I think the Three Lions Pub said it went at ended at 9 o'clock. Draft and Vessel said 10 o'clock. And the bid said 8:30. So in other years, because this is my first time being involved in this at this level, would the village staff then come in on Friday morning and pick up what they were responsible for? But now it's Saturday morning and I don't know, I don't think we get trash pickup at Atwater on a weekend. So do we have, is staff prepared to staff this on a Saturday morning?
So Leanne is on the call. We did discuss this. Hey, Leanne.
Hi there.
We did talk about this. We haven't worked out those details yet. I think we were thinking that that crew would require some overtime. Some things, we were trying to think if there were some things that could stay, like some of the maybe a larger dumpster that I tuck away somewhere.
That could stay until Monday, you mean?
Yeah, that's what we were thinking, but we haven't worked out all those details yet with TBW.
And my other question was the picnic tables. So part of the party will end, some parts of it will end at 8:30, some will end at 9 and some will end at 10. I'm just wondering, is that what we want for residents who are, a block away? Would it not, I understand that you can probably make more money if you stay open an hour after the races end, right? Which would
so
excuse me.
The races end at 8:30, and then I'm doing as much cleanup as I can as far as the bid goes. And then, I know that, obviously, like Draft and Vessel and Three Lions would like to go a little bit later. We did talk with Leanne. I don't think we're going to be able to do the picnic tables. That's too hard to kind of organize all those. So we'll get, like, Three Lions will bring in their own seating.
Okay, so that was, but like the tables was one of the COVID prevention measures, right? Was you're going to organize by tables, but now, because I thought 15 picnic tables sounded like a lot for the village of Shorewood. So now the village of Shorewood is providing no picnic tables.
Right.
But you're still somebody's going to have tables because it'll be safer for COVID.
We'll still be able, we're still, the plan is still to form pods basically that are spaced in that area.
And so we're confident that the right people are obligated, they're going to meet their obligations for that, although it's not outlined in this information.
Are you asking if I'm going to make sure that we bring in?
Right, so we're clear the village is not doing the picnic tables.
Correct, yeah.
The question mark for the village yet is garbage pickup, and what other, like, street what's the question mark for the village with it moving to Friday instead of being on Thursday?
I think it's not so much a question mark as it is an understanding that in the past years with a Thursday race, we did all of our cleanup on either Thursday night while we were there, or we used staff to do that on Friday. And quite a bit of that work actually was done by seasonals on Friday. We typically do not utilize our seasonal staff on overtime. Typically, overtime call-ins are handled by our regular staff. So there are certain things that would need to be addressed on Saturday that my opinion and recommendation could not wait until Monday. And that would require all overtime staffing.
And so that's not in the budget, right?
As you will recall, our labor accounts are typically 3-year rolling averages. So in that sense, no, they would not, that extra time would not be in the budget simply because we've never done that level of overtime staffing in the past.
And so we don't know what it would be. I mean, we obviously want this to work. We want this
Yes,
to go off.
it's estimated. It's included in your packet.
Oh, that
All those figures are included in your packet.
the overtime.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought that was a 2019 cost. Is there any other discussion from trustees or questions?
Yeah, trustee
Trustee
Steph Brown.
Bockhorst? Trustee
Thank you.
Bockhorst?
Thank you. So yeah, I really appreciate what the bid has done to throw this together. I also understand that there are uncertainties that maybe trustee Stokebrand and others might not be satisfied with, but this has been going on for quite some time. I remember fondly, Kathy, when you ran against me in West, how you had the red bicycle as your logo. And the bike lanes that we put in on Lake Drive by your house. Not to personalize this, but like this is has been a community event, and I get that obviously we're during a pandemic and there's so much going on. Part of the reason that I would support this event is it's actually multifaceted. And forgive me, I'm just going to take about 30 seconds here. Number one, I think the Bucks Arena is open at 25% as an indoor activity. The Brewers Stadium around the same number. I'm not sure what the yield is on that. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with the numbers either. Also, this has been a tradition, and over the years, we have moved from being a sea level race. We were a half day criterium, and in one of the least in the beginning of the race, which is the least desirable spot as far as pole positioning is concerned, but we've moved up. During my tenure as a trustee since 2013, we've moved into a gold level cycling community as far as a variety of other things. These are very environmentally conscious, activities, and really speak to the truth of our community. Most individuals in Shorewood own more bicycles than they do cars. And I'm not just talking about the 25% that have children, but beyond that. But at the end of the day, it matters not to me whether or not this passes, just in so much that if it were not to pass this year, we would have a more robust one next year, most likely, if the Tour of America's Dairyland would even consider Shorewood. So we are in the, like I said before, well, maybe I didn't exactly say this, but the pole position. We're in the closing weekend. This brings a lot to our community, maybe not so much during a pandemic, but in subsequent years. It has brought incredible amounts of PR. It has earned media. So basically PR that you cannot even pay for. We've gone through probably one of the worst years of all of our lives. We've made incredible sacrifices and done incredibly well in Shorewood. We were one of the first communities in the state of Wisconsin to pass a mask ordinance. Trustee Carpenter was instrumental in that. So I appreciate her comments early on in this. We also were a community that had virtual learning for our public schools, and our Shorewood private schools had in person, and a couple of the trustees also, registered their kids, pulled their kids from the in virtual learning to go in person in the private schools. So I get the understanding about the whole kids race and all the safety measures. And I'm really, really grateful that our bid director and others, and our health director and others have taken amazing strides to ensure the safety of not just, the kids that are going to school, but also the children that would participate in this. Part of health is not just physical health, though. So securing ourselves and ensuring that we're doing, following best practices for the pandemic is paramount. But also there's mental health and economic health and a variety of things. So again, I would love to see the bike races because I've always loved the bike races. And during a pandemic, I have to take pause. I have to really reevaluate some of the criteria that goes into my criterion analysis. And also equity. So if I could just for a moment, we have discussed equity on a variety of levels in this village. We just extended TID 1 for an extra year to provide $2.5 million for affordable housing. We have equity training that is going on across the board, whether it's the school district, the business district, the village board. I think both Trustee Stokebrand and Trustee Warren are participating in the YMC or YWCA equity and inclusion training. We have a variety of other things.
Trustee Bachhorst, it's.
I'm wrapping it up.
It's Trustee Ursink and myself. I just wanted to correct.
Oh, you know what? Thank you. Please, I understand and appreciate that you interrupted me to correct me, but I will. So thank you. Trustee Ursink, can you? Sorry, Trustee Warren. So beyond that, where I'm going with this, sorry, I'm going to take pause, is that not everyone has the same opportunity in Shorewood. Not everyone has the ability to escape our daily doldrum life to our North Shore or up north homes, or our copious amounts of homes across the United States to escape this pandemic. So even if equity were not an issue, which it actually is, I would support this. But given that equity this is an opportunity for people to engage in a healthy outdoor, responsible, and it looks like this has been given the okay by the North Shore Health Department, as well as the Business Improvement District, as well as the examples I gave you before of all of the indoor opportunities, and as well as the fact that I see a multitude of people at our businesses within Shorewood, whether it's the Metro Mark and beyond, and we all have other opportunities for Amazon delivery and things like that. And the pandemic is serious, yes. We've taken it seriously in this village, yes. So I guess where I'm going after this long-winded, whatever you want to call it, is that let's not get in the way of a healthy activity for individuals outside near the end of the pandemic, hopefully, fingers crossed. And something that the Department of Public Works has demonstrated time and time again, that they are able to responsibly pick up the garbage and drop off the barriers, where the Business Improvement District time and time again has proven they can raise the necessary funds for this, where the cycling community time and time again has asked for our assistance, and the children and the mountain biking group and all of the other things. So I could go on and on and on and on. And I'll wrap this up, but I'm voting yes for this tonight. Whether or not it passes really means no skin off my nose. I'm not going to be in town for this, but I would really, really, really be remiss if we denied people who have been waiting so long for an outdoor opportunity for joy during, again, one of the most difficult times in any of our lives, over a couple of unanswered questions. So thank you.
Trustee Ursink and then Trustee Carpenter, please.
It's going to be a hard one to follow up.
I had my hand raised too, so can I be after?
I'm sorry.
You don't have the little icon though, Trustee Amenta. You got to figure out how to get that little icon on your thing. That's how Trustee Strokebrand likes to run her meetings. She needs the icon. You know, do you want it? Would you like to go before me, Trustee Amenta? You can.
I don't really care. I just, because I seen that Kathy didn't see that I raised my hand.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did not see you, Trustee Amento.
I don't
Please
have
go
to
ahead.
speak. I don't have to speak for 5 minutes either.
Go ahead, Trustee Amento, please.
Oh, okay, thank you. I just wanted to say, I share Trustee Carpenter's concerns about, I mean, at this point, I feel like everyone adult who wants a vaccine, 16 and over can get a vaccine, and certainly by June when this is done, you know, and if you haven't gotten a vaccine, then for whatever reason, then I think it's up, people have to start taking responsibility for their own health and health issues, and either not go to big public events or distance, you know, people have to start taking care of themselves at some point. However, with the kids, you know, they don't have an opportunity for a vaccine, and I understand that it's outdoors and masked and all that stuff, but it is, we are creating an event that is asking kids to gather in a way that I think we've been careful not to do. At least the school district has been careful to have protocols and things like that. So I'm going to vote in favor of it too, because I think, you know, like I said, people have to take responsibility for themselves, but I would ask the group that's putting this on to think more seriously about the potential for COVID being transmitted by kids who cannot be vaccinated and who probably will be very eager to do this. So I'm not sure that it's the greatest idea to create situations where we're encouraging gathering of people who are not vaccinated and can't be vaccinated. I also want to say, in terms of equity, I mean, this is, I mean, I think everybody goes and enjoys them, but you know, this is elite bike racing, and I'm not sure how that's an equity issue. I mean, we can just slap equity on every issue we want to talk about, but if we don't have like some logic or some actual connection to an equity argument, I'm not sure that it's really in the best service of our commitment to equity to call something like a bike race an equity issue.
Okay, thank you. Now Trustee Ursink and then Trustee Carpenter.
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Stokebrand. I just want to say that, you know, I feel like talking to the businesses on the bid, this is a really important event for them, especially our food and beverage sector. They rely on these events. I know, for instance, Draft and Vessel, this is one of their bigger nights they have in the whole year. You know, as we look to get around 80 to hopefully 85% vaccinated, you know, I think these are things, you know, we've been through this a year, you know, being on, like, let's say, for instance, I'll take a small sample size of Shorewood Little League. The kids are now just like used to wearing masks. You know, they're wearing masks in the field. They're just, it's like ingrained in them. So they understand the mask wearing. They understand kind of, you know, the COVID, the risks of COVID. You know, to be honest, I'd love to kind of talk a little bit more about that, the bike races. You know, I think I think there's a lot of flexibility here, you know, and I know the bid wants to do this right, and they want to do, you know, I think they're going to be very diligent about how this comes together. You know, another aspect that I think, you know, that makes this race different than a lot of the other races, because I think there's only 2 races, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, but I think there's only 2 races, 2 criteriums. And I think what makes this a doable criterion for us is that it goes by so many residential houses. And I think this gives the opportunity for residents to go out, sit in their front yards, space out, and hang out with their neighbors in summer. I think something that's so desperately needed in our community right now. One thing I'd love to see happen is if we could actually do like a food delivery via bike, you know, so maybe we could get some bikers to like deliver food from Cloud Red, from Three Lions, and they could, you know, do these like bike deliveries around the neighborhood. I think that could be a fantastic idea. So like, you know, so I think there's, you know, there's a lot of opportunities. I think we're trying to be creative. This is not going to look like it has in the past, but we're going to try to do 2 things. You know, bring business to our business district creatively, as well as get the community out and give them a good experience that they love so much in Shorewood, and hopefully give Shorewood, you know, a little bit more PR. So there's 3 things. Hopefully bring more PR to Shorewood, you know, help our business district, and boost that psyche of our residents.
Thank you. Trustee Carpenter and then trustee Warren.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify something. I really don't believe that asking questions, appropriate questions of a bid director is not okay. I think that that is the job of trustees. I do have some concerns about the kids race, and I think that I have done that professionally and appropriately. I also at the same time want to be clear that whether someone is in public school or private school is completely irrelevant in this conversation. And I would never bring up someone's children in a conversation and where they go to school. It is 100% irrelevant and not in honesty is completely rude and disrespectful. So I just need to make sure that that is clear. I'm ready to vote for this, and I'm ready for us to move forward. Bid director, staff Salvia, I appreciate all of your answers, and thank you for being on for this evening. I do think it's a great event, and we've sacrificed a lot. I mean, I think about our first calls, Trustee Ursink and I, about the Shorewood shenanigans over a year ago, and when we had to make the call to cancel that. And the fact that there's some way that we can do this in our community is a great step forward. But I just think we have to think about the words that come out of our mouths, and we have to be kind and respectful to each other and not be inappropriate and not talk about people's children. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Warren.
Thank you, Trustee Stokebrand. I guess I agree with a lot of the things that are said in the concerns raised here, so I won't beat a dead horse and just simply reiterate some of the comments. I think it's been a great discussion, but I too am in favor of this. I think it's amazing that we've come this far and we're able to do this safely, and I think it'll be a great event for the community. So with that, I can make a motion. I move to approve the special event permit short-term cabaret license from the Shorewood bid, temporary extensions of the premises for Draft and Bethel, 4417 North Oakland Avenue, Three Lions Pub, 4515 North Oakland Avenue, short-term cabaret license for Three Lions Pub for the Shorewood Criterion, and the special event permit for a block party in the 4500 block of North Oakland Avenue on Friday, June 25th, 2021, and to direct the village clerk to issue appropriate permits. That would be the longest motion I've ever read.
Second, I'll second that.
Sorry, I didn't myself. I had a question too. One more quick question for Director Salvia. So my neighbors sometimes would have bicyclists staying in their house. Is that happening this year? Like usually?
That's a good question. The tour guys are on right now.
I mean, is North Shore Health Department being consulted about the bicyclists staying in residents' homes?
I'm texting these guys. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I can find out about that.
Can we go to Trustee Amenta's comment then?
Yeah, I just want to add weight to what Trustee Carpenter said, and that one really unfortunate. It should not be a price you pay of public, I call it public servitude, but it should not be a price you pay of public servitude that your family and children get attacked. I've experienced that as a trustee, and it's just completely inappropriate. And it's the kind of thing that makes people watch this board and say, I would never do that. I would never put myself up for those kind of comments made in a public setting.
Thank you.
This is Tom Schuler with the Tour of America's Dairyland.
Okay, thank you.
My address is 5627 West Washington Boulevard, Milwaukee. I'd like to answer the question about host housing.
Yes, please.
That you brought up. Yeah, we have, that is a feature of the Tour of America's Dairyland that the racers appreciate. They travel from all over the country and they love the hospitality, as you know, that your neighbors hosted of probably the same group for many years. Let me see if I can get my video on. There we go. So at this point, it looks like we're going to require all racers to be vaccinated in that case. We haven't made that firm decision, but we're heading in that direction. The other thing is there's a communication between the host family and those racers, so they're both comfortable. So this is it's a different year for our host housing coordinator So we are well aware of the extra layer of protection we want to employ this year.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that it was addressed by the families and the North Shore Health Department in the bid. And so thank you for those comments. Anyone else? Trustee Ursink?
I just wanted to make sure that I didn't get the comments where you guys were Trustee Amenta and Trustee Carpenter that wasn't, obviously it wasn't my comment. Was that something that Trustee Bachhorst had said? I didn't pick that up. I don't know where that's all coming from. So I must have sort of.
Yes,
I
when she referred to my children as being pulled out of school, that was what I was referring to.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't hear that. I apologize. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think then if there's no further discussion, Clerk Bruckman, would you please call the roll?
I will.
I'm sorry, call the vote.
Yep. So this would be to approve it. Trustee Stokebrand,
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter,
Aye.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst,
Yes.
Trustee Amenta,
Aye.
Trustee Ursink.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Yay.
Thank you to the bid and thank you to Mr. Schuler.
Thank you. And
And-
we'll make sure we are, doing this as safely as humanly possible. It'll be great.
And thank you for staff for your input and your assistance, Leanne. Okay, we'll move on then to, I believe we're ready for item 7. The public hearing, ordinance 3022, an ordinance to adopt the Village of Shorewood Comprehensive Plan for 2020.
You're going to open the public hearing, Trustee Stokebrand, and announce the time. And this will just be for public comment. Any trustee board deliberation will happen on the item in 9A. So if you could just announce the time that you're opening it, and then we'll take public comment.
All right, I'll open the public hearing at 8:15, and we will look for public comment at this time. And I guess I will let Clerk Bruckman call. Did anyone register ahead of time?
Nobody registered ahead of time. So if there's anybody that would like to comment on the comprehensive plan at this time, we ask that you either raise your hand or unmute yourself and state your name and address, please.
We'll wait a minute or so.
All right, I would say you're probably good to close the public hearing.
All right, we'll close the public hearing at 8:15. And no further action is needed on that, but we will begin board discussion. Is that correct?
That is correct. So you would, we're actually going to go into citizens to be heard first and other agenda items or non-agenda items.
That's right. I see it's.
Yeah, and then we're going to move into board
9G
deliberation.
isn't good. Okay, moving to item 8 then, citizens to be heard. This is for items not on the agenda. Discussion may follow on non-agenda items, or discussion and action may come at future meetings. Is there anyone who registered in advance for citizens to be heard?
Nobody registered it in advance, but I do have Barbara Kylie Miller with her hand raised. So Barbara, you could unmute yourself and state your name and address, please.
Thank you. Barbara Kylie Miller, 4051 North Downer Avenue. We've gotten so used to these Zoom meetings the last 13 months that I think it's hard to remember that it wasn't that long ago when if you wanted to know what was going on with village government, you had to show up in the courtroom or the village committee room or get up early to go to a CDA meeting. But then Trustee Amenta was elected. And at her second meeting as a trustee on May 18th, 2015, she proposed the live streaming of village board meetings. Eventually, after resistance from other board members, the first board meeting was recorded on August 15th, 2016. And subsequently, all board meetings, committee meetings, and those of other volunteer groups, such as the CDA and the Plan Commission, followed, increasing government transparency. Trustee Amenta also initiated the recreation of the Human Relations Commission, so Shorewood could be a more welcoming place for all people to live, work, and visit, and so that conflicts between people or between people and government institutions could be resolved. For the last 3 years, she has served as the chairperson of the Budget and Finance Committee and provided wise stewardship of tax dollars and grants. As for President Rosick, she pushed for the renovation of our historic fire station, rather than its destruction, as some others had advocated. She introduced the Committee of the Whole so that board discussions of more complex issues and problems could take place. While serving on the CDA as a trustee, she led the subcommittee to revise our facade grant program to dramatically lower grant limits. She worked for the organization of and transparency of all village contracts, including the introduction of a process for taking bids on all professional contracts that the village enters into. President Rosick opened up the future agenda procedure so that all trustees have a chance to represent and bring to the floor the concerns of residents and the goals that they promised to fulfill during their election campaigns. Together, President Rosick and Trustee Amenta pushed for regular replacement of alleys and to have more alleys reconstructed every 2 years than were originally contemplated and budgeted, against pushback from other trustees then serving on the board. During their tenure on the board, they have lent their education, experience, and expertise in public administration and urban planning to our elected board. Along with outgoing trustee Jessica Carpenter, they work to maintain crucial municipal services while keeping property tax increases to a minimum, acknowledging that Shorewood is home to residents of all income levels. They help to revise the village's TIF program with more stringent guidelines to protect Shorewood taxpayers while still encouraging investment. Along with the other board members, they approved the use of TIF increment funds for affordable housing in the village. And with the other current trustees, they provided village development funds as a lifeline of emergency aid to businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic shutdown. I would like to thank all three of them for making Shorewood a better place because of their service. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kylie Miller. Is there anyone else to be heard this evening?
I do not have anybody else with their hand raised at this time.
Okay, we'll move on to item 9A under new business. Consider ordinance 3022, an ordinance to adopt the Village of Shorewood Comprehensive Plan 2040. Is there discussion? We've had discussion already this evening. Staff, is there anything further you would like to add before we open up to board discussion?
No, so the information in your packet specific to this item outlines two possible motions. One would be to approve the comprehensive plan. If so, we do want to point out within the motion, I've identified several technical corrections, which you've already hoped to make in the actual plan. And then if there's anything from tonight's discussion as well that's non-substantive, we could also add that to the list. The other option would be to move to refer it back to the Plan Commission for further development and amendment. If you choose to do that option, I would ask that you provide specific direction to guide the Plan Commission's conversation. I'm also available for any additional questions, and I believe Nathan, our attorney here, is as well if you have any technical questions with respect to the adoption, as well as Jackie from Vanderwall is still on the call as well.
Thank you, Director Bart. Do any trustees have further questions about the comprehensive plan or anything else related to this issue? Okay, seeing none, I would.
Trustee Amenta's hand is raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, David. I'm going to slide over it. I apologize. Trustee
okay.
Amenta?
So we discussed at the joint meeting earlier about clarifying about the 4 or 5 story issue, that the 5 story only applies in that first block north of Capitol or first 120 feet. So where would we make that language change? And what specifically would we change?
Yeah, if you want to clarify that in the plan, I would ask that the motion just include that you add this to the technical changes and corrections page within the packet. And I would suggest that you could amend that sentence by saying as current zoning permits. So I believe the sentence reads something to the effect of 4 to 5 stories within the Main Street mixed use district. If you wanted to add the clarifying phrase as current zoning permits, that would then clarify that 5 stories would relate only to the areas where 5 stories is currently permitted per the zoning code.
That phrase is in the land use section.
It's in the land use, yep, land use chapter. It describes the Main Street mixed-use district.
Okay, Main Street Mixed Use District. Okay. I mean, if any, I can attempt a motion if anyone, unless other people want to discuss more.
Anyone else have any? I'm going to try to slide my scroll bar here. I don't see any other hands on my side panel. Were you prepared to make, do we need a motion and then an amendment? An emotion
Well, no,
plan with an amendment to, with your point about
I'll
this.
just make it in the motion. So I'll move to approve ordinance 3022, an ordinance to adopt the Village of Shorewood comprehensive plan, subject to the addition of the phrase "as current zoning permits" in the land use chapter's definition of Main Street mixed use. Now I can't read my writing. Mixed use uses? What?
District.
District, okay. Does that make sense as a motion?
I believe so.
Okay.
Can I ask a point of order?
Trustee Warren.
Do we also need to include the technical changes and corrections? Like the changing of the village logo to the cover page, like Bart, do you also need that in the motion, or is that just kind of, is that built in already?
It would be nice if it was in there. It was built in my process that we would do those automatically. So I provided them for your reference.
Okay.
But if Trustee Menta wants to say, in addition to those changes, to add that one, that'd be helpful to clarify, I suppose.
That's fine.
Or you could just reference it specific, or reference the feedback given during the committee of the whole earlier, the technical amendments given to the planning director during the committee of the whole earlier.
Actually,
we didn't really give him
these were
direction.
presented by the consultant prior to the meeting. So, but if you, I believe you could just say, and the technical changes and corrections provided by the consultant.
Yes, that's fine to add that to the end of the motion. Yeah.
And I believe Trustee Carpenter seconded, if that was okay with you.
Yeah, that I was waiting to see if that amendment but happened, and that's fine. I'll
Okay.
keep my second.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll have Clerk Bruckman please reread the motion.
To approve ordinance 3022, an ordinance to adopt the Village of Shorewood Comprehensive Plan 2040, subject to adding the phrase "as current zoning permits" in the landing chapter of mainstream mixed-use district, and to add the technical changes and corrections provided by the consultant.
I think it's Main Street, not Main Street.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Trustee Bockhorst?
Yes. Thank you, Trustee Stokebrand or Kathy. Yes, so I did have a question then for, maybe it's the village attorney or for Bart. If the zoning were to change, well, actually, I will withdraw my question. That's fine.
Trustee Amenta?
Yeah, I just want to make two comments in regard to the comprehensive plan. Well, actually three. I mean, it's a really long plan, and to me, it's like everything is just kind of thrown in there like the kitchen sink. And there's internal contradictions and things. So I would have liked to have seen a more compact and to the point document. Number two, I voted against the public input plan for that was presented months ago when we talked about this. I think the amount of public, and I know it's been in the village manager's memo. I know it's been in Shorewood today. I know, but when you ask, I think if you ask a handful of neighbors, do they know what's in this document, what's being discussed, any of these things, people would say, no, they have no idea about it. So, I feel the public input process is just really not been where it is, where it should be. I forget what the third thing was, but I am going to vote in, the housing. I am concerned that we need to we need to open up the suburb, not just Shorewood, Wauwatosa, every suburb. I mean, we live in a extremely segregated county, and housing segregation is one of the most essential basis of that segregation. So I do feel it's really important that we create an opportunity for affordable housing and to increase diversity, and that's going to benefit our village in many ways. So I am a little bit concerned that we really haven't created enough opportunity for new housing development, and I don't have a specific I don't have a specific idea of how to do that, whether it's allowing higher density on Capitol and Oakland, whether it's saying we're not going to do, if people want to replace single family with duplexes or duplexes with triplexes. But I do hope that future boards will look at the housing supply and its relationship to a more equitable balance between suburbs and the central city. But I do have these reservations, but I am going to vote in favor tonight.
Thank you. Trustee Bachhorst, your hand is still raised.
Thank you. I agree completely with Trustee Amenta. Davida brings up really good points. I was part of the public information process. I think there were 32 people on the call. Of those, 4 to 6 were consultants and staff and a variety of village trustees. So I think that, I can't remember if it was you, Kathy, or Davida, who mentioned that the public input that evening was about 12. I appreciate the Planning Commission's hard work in this, as well as the staff, the consultant, the amount of money that we put towards this. I think one of the things that's remiss is letting people know that this is a statutory requirement that we update this plan, I believe, every decade. It's been a really trying year again, and we haven't had a lot of opportunities for in-person meetings, but we probably have had more public engagement overall, given that people can attend and participate in meetings from the comfort of their home. We're all busy. Shorewood is a very highly engaged community as well as educated community. I do again appreciate David Amenta's comments in this regard, and I do plan on voting for this as well. Even though I don't agree with necessarily, I've read this, I've been a part of the Planning Commission's meetings, the public information, etc. I would say that perhaps a more rigorous public involvement, maybe even going forward, because after this, even if we adopt it this evening, it's not non-amendable. So anyway, for the sake of, for moving the meeting along tonight and for getting us where we can change zoning and other kind of things, I will be voting yes tonight. So I appreciate this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I did have a couple of points that I'm sorry I forgot to bring up during the earlier meeting, and that is, I believe on page 13 we talk about affordable being $120,000 house. There was something we should strive to get homes below 300,000, and some below 200,000 would be better. And I just wonder, to have that kind of language in a document where we know, it just seems totally unrealistic to me. I mean, when the market puts something out there, we know what the market is. I don't know if the consultant is still on the call, or if staff could help me with that.
Mm-hmm.
Are we, why are we putting that in there when if that's just not our market, how are we supposed to say we think we should have homes in Shorewood available for less than $200,000 when it just doesn't seem realistic? We can't change the market. You know what I'm saying? What's the point of us having that kind of language in this document?
This is Jackie Mish from Vanderwall and Associates. I believe that language was referencing the affordable housing study that had been done previously.
Okay.
I don't believe we set that as a goal for the village.
Okay, and I think perhaps that also is the question I had when I was rereading it about, we have units filled with low-cost units that are filled with higher income people. Is that also from the housing study?
That is from the housing study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, my I shouldn't have brought it up in this context then. Thank you. Okay, are we ready for a vote then? Clerk Bruckman, would
Yep.
you please call the roll?
Yep. Trustee Ursink,
Aye.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
Trustee Amenta.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter,
Aye.
Trustee Stokebrand,
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Bart, and to Jackie for all the work on this. It's a huge project and we appreciate your time. And we're working, there'll be a few things tweaked yet, as the memo indicated, some updated photos and the logo, for example, will be coming on. Moving on then to new business item 9B, consider award of contract for 2021 street resurfacing program. If Leanne would like to take the lead on this, please.
I can certainly do that. Good evening. As you will recall, we have a street resurfacing, or sometimes referred to as mill and overlay program, scheduled for this year. It was included in the village budget and last year's long range financial plan. The streets are primarily in the southeast area. We received 2 bids. The lowest bid was submitted by Payne and Dolan in the amount of $389,722.50. I'm not sure if Finance Director Emmanuelson is on the call, but I believe there's $880,000 in residual bond proceeds that will be used to fund this project. So clearly it is well within that range. Staff has worked on several past contracts with Payne and Dolan, and certainly recommends them as the lowest, most responsible bidder, and recommends your award of the contract.
Kathy, I had a,
Okay, Trustee Amenta.
yeah, I had asked Mark about the financing for this, and he referred me to the project list in our most recent budget, which has $300,000 for Downer resurfacing, and then an $880 for additional mill and overlay in the southeast. 212,587 was spent in 2020. So with those two together, there's 952,413. But also in the I think already bonded 300,000 for Oakland South. So the available funds for this are like 1,250,000. So I guess the only point I wanted to make is that I don't know if we want to keep some in reserve for Downer, but there's a good surplus in terms of street resurfacing funds in the budget for next year's board to be able to apply to other projects, or even if capital projects, unanticipated capital projects come up this year. I just want to point out that there's substantial funding according to our budget.
So do you think that we're over borrowing?
Well, I mean, I can't remember if we've already borrowed. I think we've already borrowed this money. So we borrowed 300,000 for Downer that we're not now doing. And then, I don't know, Leanne, have we already borrowed the 880? I think we have. I don't know.
Sorry about that. Yep, no, that is my understanding, that those bond proceeds, that borrowing has been completed and those funds are available for currently, yes.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if the 300,000 for Oakland Avenue South was included in a borrowing either, but I mean, yeah, if it hasn't been borrowed, then we can borrow less, which will help reduce debt service. But if it has been borrowed, just know that it's there and that there's money in the pot, basically.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Ursink?
Yeah, the question is, I'm wondering if we can use these extra funds then to repave the police parking lot, which I know is in desperate need. maybe I should say, this is something that potentially we could look into using some of these funds to repave the parking lot, which I know is desperately needed. So it's something to consider. But I just would like to make a motion.
I guess, I thought we had been in this discussion before and you could only use the money for like a similar item that it was put in the bond issue for. Is that, was that the understanding? I could be mistaken. Anyway, go ahead, Trustee Ursink, if you're ready to make a motion.
So I move to award I move the award of a contract of the 2021 street resurfacing mill and overlay project to Payne and Dolan Inc. in the amount of $389,772.50.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, Clerk Bruckman, would you please call the roll?
Yep. Trustee Amenta,
Aye.
Trustee Ursink,
Aye.
Trustee Stokebrand,
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst,
Yes.
Trustee Carpenter,
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to new business 9, item D. Consider award of contract for 2021 Frederick Water Main Relay Project. And again, I'll ask Director Butchlick to help us.
I can certainly do that.
I think we missed.
Did I miss item C?
Yep, 9C was to consider reimbursement resolution 2021. Sorry.
Correct.
Yep.
Thank you. And is that also something that Leanne would like to address?
I'll move approval of resolution 2021-10, declaring official intent to reimburse expenditures from proceeds of borrowing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Brookman, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Warren,
Aye.
Trustee Amenta,
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst,
Yes.
Trustee Stokebrand,
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter,
Aye.
Trustee Ursink.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you for the clarification. And now 9D, consider award of contract for 2021 Frederick Water Main Relay Project. Director Butchlick?
Sure. So our water main relay project for 2021 includes the 38 and 3900 blocks of North Frederick Avenue. We received, let me back up a step. As in past programs, since we've instituted the optional private private service replacement component of the project, we include the water main as a base bid. And then the private service replacement, we have an alternate, and that is done as a unit price. So the complete service line replacement from the curb stop into the home with the appropriate plumbing connection. We received 3 bids this year, the lowest from UPI, who, if that name sounds familiar, that's because they have done quite a bit of work for us in recent years. So staff would certainly recommend them as the lowest, most responsible bidder. They did submit an alternate for a private service replacement in the amount of $7,000, which is right in the ballpark of the prices we've had over the last couple of years. And so staff would recommend your award of the contract, base bid and alternate one, to UPI in the total amount of $485,808.40.
I did have a question. This could just be a typo on that third bullet from the top at the beginning of the memo. I'm sorry, the second one where we talk about to encourage private property owners to replace their lead service lines in conjunction with the village project and to minimize risks of lead exposure if they choose not to do so. Should that be if they choose to do so?
No, in reality, it should be that we make every effort to minimize the risk of lead exposure, no matter what their choice. But the emphasis in this sentence is to minimize their risks of exposure
Oh, I see.
if they choose not to participate in the program.
Okay, I see. I just misread it. Okay, thank you. And so is there any, so there hasn't been, I guess, from previous projects, we're not seeing the number of participants in this private water service line replacement that we would hope, right?
I think that's a fair statement. As of this morning, I've had one inquiry about this particular project, and we did notify all of the residents of their ability to participate probably in the first week of March or so.
So 1 out of 24 is interested?
As of this date, yes. They will receive another mailing beginning tomorrow. And we will be holding a virtual public information meeting for those residents, as we have done on every project in the past. So we may, you know, I'm hopeful that we will see more interest. But to this point, we've not been extremely successful in getting people to participate.
And just in general, it's because who wants to have the front lawn torn up and pay thousands of dollars? But you would be
yeah,
lead-free water.
There's no excavate. There's very little excavation. This uses a boring method, so it's not an open cut. So the disruption is quite minimal. But yeah, the cost is definitely a factor for most people. And I would say anecdotally, what I have experienced and been involved with people's comments is people with young children are typically far more interested in this. You know, residents who've been in their home for quite some time, have older children or have no children at all. If we have a conversation about it, it's because they're concerned about resale value, not particularly the health impacts to them as current residents.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Warren?
Yeah, maybe this is a basic question, but I'll ask it anyway. So I noticed that UPI clearly the lowest on the base bid. And then we have the private service replacements, alternate one. And I'm assuming there's no way we can separate those out. I did notice Mid-City Corporation has a lower unit price than UPI. But I'm guessing that there's no way to separate those out. And moreover, that you know that 1 out of 24 who may be interested might also be contributing to our kind of how we're viewing things here in terms of the totality of the bid.
I think that's very much a fair statement. We had this issue, though the gap was quite a bit wider on a past project where the base bid was the lowest base bidder was significantly lower than the next lowest bid, but that second lowest bidder had a much lower unit price on the service replacement. And the board at that point did have a discussion about which to choose, considering that the message to residents, if they chose the contractor with the lower alternate price, but and that's something I thought about for quite some time prior to writing the memo. If I had a reasonable expectation that we would have good participation from residents, I would have recommended that you bypass UPI, but based on the, like I said, based on the conversation I've had to date, I think it from a financial perspective, I would have a hard time recommending not using UPI. I don't believe we would have enough participation to realize that savings by utilizing the second low bidder.
Okay, Trustee Carpenter, and then Trustee, did you completed your line of inquiry, Trustee Warren?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Trustee Carpenter and then Trustee Ursink.
I just was wondering, what would the cost be for a resident to do this on their own? And I'm assuming it would be significantly more since we're...
It varies. I mean, as you know, I mean, every property is different, and in most cases, I think if a resident does it on their own, they can do it for somewhat less, not significantly less, but in a typical plumbing setup on a typical lot, short side service, they could probably do it for under $7,000. I think the benefit that the village provides is it's very turnkey. In this instance, the resident doesn't have to really be involved other than signing the agreement and ultimately repaying the special assessment. The other value is that we're offering a 5-year repayment plan at 0% interest.
Wow.
And that was something that you may recall, Trustee Carpenter, the board decided to do a couple of years ago as their participation or their effort, their financial incentive to get people to participate.
Yeah, that was the only reason why I was asking, because we had, I think it was that year that we did Woodburn when we had so much participation, and we were almost like not prepared for such participation.
Yes,
so it's
you're
just
correct.
like such a, such a flip of the project. But I just was sort of thinking as you were talking that, I wonder, I mean, I'm sure in the letter we say that there's the 0% financing option, and just was trying to brainstorm of any ways that we could, like, I don't know, make it more saleable, or in that letter, because I do think it's a really good opportunity for residents to make an improvement to their property. So
I'd like to think so too.
The health and well-being of the village.
Right.
Right. Trustee Ursink?
Yeah, I think I kind of echo some of that is how can we get the word out there? I think it's just kind of a messaging thing. I think if we could get the word out there, nobody wants lead pipes in their homes. I think it's just like such a health risk, right? I guess one question I had is, what about the removal? Is there a risk of exposure when you remove it? Sort of like when you remove asbestos from a home and that creates sort of, the asbestos dust in the air. When you're removing this lead piping, is that creating some sort of contamination in your pipes?
There is a significantly higher risk of exposure if you do a partial replacement. All of our policies and procedures and actions to this point have done, we take multiple steps to minimize that risk, but everyone agrees that a partial replacement is definitely the highest risk of exposure. Certainly, if you remove the lead in its entirety, it doesn't have the same type of implications as asbestos would, because it's a solid material. It's not airborne particles. But I think I'd certainly be open to suggestions as to what more we could do to communicate with residents. It's not as if this is a village-wide program. It's a very targeted program, and only specific residents are eligible in a particular time period. And we do multiple direct targeted communications to them. And I'd be thrilled if someone has alternate suggestions or better ideas as to how to convince people that this is important. We will be talking in the very near future about changes to this program. The EPA lead and copper rule takes effect in 2024, and under most likely scenarios, after that point, this will not be an optional replacement. Yeah. We will very likely be looking at mandatory service line replacements.
Is there a way to drive the cost down if we got more people to buy in? And another question is, how many people in Shorewood do you estimate have the lead piping? Are we looking at an over 70%, 80% right now? So pretty much every household.
We're probably just over 90%.
90%
right
so
now.
Potentially my house on North Morris has a lead pipe. That's nothing. I don't think anybody wants that. So I think it's just, Yeah, I'd love to help you brainstorm that communication a bit, because I think it's really important that we get all these lead pipes out of our community. And just to back up my question is, how can we drive the price down for residents at all if we get a bigger buy-in? You know, if we get, let's say we get everybody in the 90% of the community say, yep, we're interested, let's do it. Can we drive that $7,000 down?
Certainly economies of scale will do that. I think the bigger issue, and we've had this conversation, Trustee Menta may remember a conversation that we had with her and then Trustee Maher. We're in a bit of a rock and a hard place in the sense that you know, we don't have new water main in most places. And typically when you put a new service in, you put a new hole or a new connection into the existing main. Our water infrastructure is not in a condition where we can just punch 24 new holes in a block of an old main. We really need to take a very wholesale, very comprehensive, very long-term approach to this. And it will not be possible to do hundreds or thousands of these in a very short time frame. We are going to be in this for the long haul.
I have a question. So let's say I live on whatever street and we know we have a general plan for when each street is going to be redone to the point that the water main would be replaced, right? Or where they'd be the point where they'd be looking at your private service line and you could be, so let's say I find out my street is in 5 years. I mean, is that the kind of thing it would be helpful? Because, you know, it's sort of like your roof, or, you know, like I know I'm going to need to repaint my house in 5 years. I know my roof is good for 10 more. Is it the sort of thing where you think, wow, that's a big expense coming and I definitely want to be planning ahead? Whereas finding out 6 months ahead of time, oh, you need 5 to 10 grand for a new private water service line. I mean, I wonder if we just need to think, would it be helpful to try to go farther out?
Yeah, it certainly can't hurt. And that's definitely going to be part of that long haul conversation that we have. You know what they say about the best laid plans sometimes, right? But all we can do is the very best planning that we can do. And certainly, certainly there are going to be things that come up that we're going to have to tweak or alter those plans. But I think most definitely we need to have a longer term plan, a longer term approach to our service line replacements. And that is going to mean going out 5, 10, even decades to schedule
like
that.
If we think which streets are going to be the areas we'd be looking at in the next 2 to 4 years, and we pinpoint them for a targeted mailing or whatever, and you include information about lead poisoning, I don't know. Anyway, okay, is there any other further discussion?
I just wanted to add that especially if you have young children, you need to run your cold water all the time in the morning, and you need to run it until you feel it really cold, like where it's come in from the main. Because when the water is sitting in lead pipes, you have to run it so all the water that's been in the pipes is gone, and you're getting the water from the main, which is not exposed to the lead. And our building inspector, when we first bought in Shorewood, told us, we had a baby at the time, and said, make sure you always run the water. And anyone new moving here, or anyone with young children, should just make that a habit, make that a practice to run their cold water.
Excellent advice.
Okay,
how long we talking, Trustee man? How long should we run that cold water for? A couple minutes? Minute? Do you guys
actually when
you run it until you feel that it's cold, like you feel the temperature change, and you feel when it gets really cold, because that's the water. I don't know, in the summertime, even in the summer, it's much colder, isn't it, Leanne? The water from the main.
You can tell. I mean, and most people do that without realizing that they're doing it. Very few people, I mean, I don't know many people who stick a glass under the tap and turn it on and take that drink right away. Most of the time, right, you let it run, you let it cool down a little bit. I think typically when people get up,
they use some bathroom facilities, they take a shower, they do any water use. It doesn't necessarily have to be from your sink. Any water use will help that flush.
Thank you. Trustee Carpenter?
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just ready to make a motion. So I move to award a unit price contract for the 2021 Frederick Water Main Relay Base Bid in the amount of $307,885.40 and one alternate in the amount of $168,000 and no cents to UPI LLC for a total amount of $485,808.40.
Second.
Second.
The second longest motion tonight.
Some long motion.
So we have a motion by Trustee Carpenter and a second by Trustee Warren. Is there any further discussion? Let me scroll here. I can't see it, everybody. Okay, Trust Clerk Bruckman, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst.
Yes.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Ursink.
Yes.
Trustee Amenta.
Aye.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Clerk. Moving on to new business item 9E, consider AMI alternate water meter transmission unit placement policy, a village policy number 41. And Leanne, would you please lead us through this?
I would be happy to. So this was discussed at last meeting's Public Works Committee. So I would certainly invite any of you to jump in if you think I've jumped over anything that should have some further attention to detail. But in general, the construction authorization that was issued to the Village of Shorewood for its meter replacement program identifies the AMI, the automated metering infrastructure, as a standard, as the standard setup. In some cases, in some communities, there are people who, for their own personal reasons, would choose not to have that type of setup in their home and ask for an alternate configuration. The PSC does not require communities to offer this alternate configuration, but some do not. So staff identified two and took those to Public Works Committee. In fact, we actually took those to the then Public Works Committee in March of 2020, shortly before the bottom fell out, I guess is maybe the way I could put that. So we brought it back and had the discussion again. There were two alternatives identified. One would be the installation of the meter transmission unit, which is the radio unit that relays consumption information from the meter to the cloud for our billing system. Rather than installing that on the interior of the home, that could be installed on the exterior of the home. The other option would be to not include a meter transmission unit, which is MTU for short, and instead install just a simple manual read meter. Both of these options would have additional costs to the user. Certainly one of the biggest reason that staff has advocated, and I believe the board approved an AMI system, was the huge efficiencies that we get from wireless reading of the meters. And if we allow manual read meters on the property, that really goes away. It requires us to read meters in two different ways, which certainly is a bit of a backward step on our goal and our striving for efficiencies. So ultimately, the Public Works Commission did recommend the adoption of a policy which would allow the alternate installation of the MTU on the exterior of the building. So that is included in your packet as village policy number 41, which is where we are on the policy list. There are a couple of area communities that do provide opt-out policies, and there are several that do not. So it really is a personal type of community preference. If you have any questions, I'm very happy to answer those. I did also want to run through the disconnection process with you, but I think perhaps we put this issue to rest before moving on to that. That has no formal action. This does require board action.
Thank you, Trustee Warren.
Thank you, and just wanted to chime in as chair of Public Works. This is a rare agenda item that the way the committees were structured and the way they changed over, 5 of the 6 trustees on the call this has been in front of at the committee level. And really our last discussion, I imagine it's squared up with the discussion that took place about a year ago, which is that by allowing for option number 1, you give people an alternative to having this placed within their house, but you also can get the efficiency of not having to do a manual read. So it seems like the best option for us. There is a one-time charge, but certainly it's an option that makes a lot of sense and also gives people some flexibility in the event that they don't want to have this unit within their homes. So I'm fully in support of option number 1. I think this is something that we should move forward with. And before making a motion, I guess I'll wait for around the table, but I am in support.
Thank you, Trustee Warren. Did any other trustees have comments? Trustee Carpenter?
So other than reading the packet, I'm not as knowledgeable. I just was curious how that holds up in, a polar vortex or in weather. I'm assuming it's fine, but just curious.
It would operate very similarly to the touchpad readers that we have now. Now we have the readers mounted on the exterior house. They actually have to use the handheld unit. They have to physically make contact to that to download the information. That has weatherproofing. This is a very similar protective setup.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other further questions from the trustees? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
So,
Trustee Warren?
So this is so Leanne, are you asking for a recommendation? Because I noticed it's a recommended approval. Or is that supposed to be, is there some reason that it's a
Oh, yeah. I think it was Leanne's cut and paste error on the last memo. I apologize for that. I think you can just,
move to approve?
Move to approve.
I'll move to approve Village of Shorewood policy number 41, alternate water meter transmission unit placement. Parentheses opt-out close parentheses policy, which provides for an option to install the meter transmission unit parentheses MTU close parentheses on the exterior of a residence at a cost to be borne by the requesting property owner.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Trustee Warren, seconded by Trustee Bockhorst. Is there any further discussion on the motion? I'm trying to click. Seeing none, Clerk Bruckman, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Trustee Ursink.
Aye.
Trustee Amenta.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Bockhorst.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Clerk. Moving on, new business item F, consider resolution.
Actually, Trustee Stokebrand, my apologies. There is another item under that heading. It doesn't require board approval, but if you would indulge me, I would just like to review with the village board the disconnection process that's outlined by PSC, just so that the board has a good understanding of hopefully not anything we have to do, but the process that the Public Service Commission does lay out, if we should need to persuade residents to participate in the meter replacement process.
And so that's it's the one on page 343 of the packet. That's the full chart?
I actually have a paper copy in front of me, but I can show you what it looks like.
Yeah, Kat,
It's very colorful.
that's right.
Looks like this.
343.
Yeah, 343. Thank you.
All right. So as I mentioned, the Public Service Commission does identify a process that communities must follow related to disconnection of a water service. They don't specifically lay out the process related to water meter replacement, but this would be a melding of the two. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands exactly how many steps and how many contact points we have with the resident before we get to our last, we'll call it a persuasive step, that to allow us to replace that meter, which is required. So in just a few short months, we will be starting our meter replacement program. So we have a virtual public information meeting scheduled in mid-May, May 12th. Appointments to that will be mailed, invitations to that meeting will be mailed to residents. Probably they're at the mailing house now, so my guess is they'll start hitting mailboxes next week. And that's going to be a public information meeting that we will have a presentation and people can ask questions. Shortly following that, the first invitations will go out, or requests for residents to schedule appointments to have those meters changed. So that's the first step you see on this flow chart. If we do not receive a response to that when the utility contractor is in the neighborhood, because this will be a targeted neighborhood approach, so we'll be geographically moving through sections of the village. So when the contracted installers are in the area, they'll hang door hangers on any homes that they haven't had responses from. If we still don't have a response, we'll send out a second appointment request via US mail. Door hangers again, when installers are in the area, if we haven't had a response. There will be also then the third request via US mail for the resident to set up an appointment for us to do the meter change. If at any time we receive a response, we make that appointment, the meter gets changed, and we move on. If after the third request, we still have not had a response, the utility contractor will return the account to the village. So they'll say, we haven't had a response, here you go. That is where we move into a disconnection process. We will send the account holder a disconnection of service notice. PSC requires that, just first class mail. We have traditionally done these, though we do very, very few of them, by certified mail. And that's something I would certainly recommend. If we receive a response to that, we schedule the appointment, all is well. If we do not, after 5 days have passed, we then notice the property. So there would be a door hanger. We would leave this notice on each entry door of the building stating that in 5 days, the water service will be disconnected if we do not have a scheduled appointment. At the point of the 5-day disconnection notice, we being the utility, will notify the village board, the village manager, North Shore Health Department, North Shore Fire Department, and our building inspection department that we're on a 5-day countdown to disconnection of service. Again, if we receive a response, we schedule that appointment, we go in, we change the meter, all is well. If we do not receive a response and we get to that 10th day after the certified mailing, then our utility staff will go and shut off the water at the curb. And it will be off until we receive a request to schedule the appointment. As soon as the appointment is scheduled, we would reinstate service. And we would not disconnect. And any disconnections would occur early in the week or early in the morning. We would not disconnect on a Friday. We would not disconnect in the late afternoon. We would do everything and give that property owner or resident every opportunity to be able during normal business hours to make that appointment so that we could get in there and take care of replacing that meter. If
I see Trustee Warren has his hand up. Can you take a question? Trustee?
Sure.
Thanks. Sorry to interrupt. I was just kind of curious. This all makes sense to me. A lot of opportunities, and I think I remember from the committee meeting that this is a really, really unusual circumstance where you get to the point of shutting off someone's water. Really, from what I understand, it doesn't really happen. But I'm wondering, that 5-day disconnection of service notice door hanger, right to the end. Is there an opportunity to just knock on someone's door at that point? I mean, just trying for one more touch point. I realize it's complicated a little bit by COVID, but could we, just kind of generally, could we think about whether we want to try and knock?
Well, we would certainly do that. I mean, if we were going up to someone's door, we would knock and we would make that effort to communicate with them. If we had the opportunity to do that, we would certainly explain the program, explain the requirements, do everything that we could to encourage them just to schedule the appointments. If they had concerns, whether it be related to, allowing someone in the house, just generally speaking, or if they had COVID-related concerns, we certainly would do everything we could to help them understand the process, the protocols, the safety measures that we're taking, and do everything we could to put their mind at ease so that they felt comfortable making that appointment.
And I think you answered this too I'm sorry, Trustee Warren, was your point addressed?
I was just saying, thank you. Got it.
Okay. I think I asked this at the committee meeting and I can't remember the answer, but so I have neighbors that are snowbirds. And so is this going to be done like by geographic regions of the village? I believe if I recall, you said this could take a year. This could be going all the way through next winter. So like, let's say you're in the part of the village that comes last and you decide to go to your southern home for 6 to 7 months. And that's when the village is doing your part of the village. Is that what would happen?
I think just to clarify, I think when I said this could take up to a year, I meant A to triple Z. I believe that all of the appointment requests will go out within the first, say, 6 months. Now I'm just
April through
I would expect to see the first appointment request go out probably late June would be my guess. The utility contractor has not verified that timeframe with us just yet. But certainly I would think it's very likely that you would see all of the appointment requests out before the end of calendar year 2021. We certainly would, if we were contacted, we would, if someone was leaving town, we would go out of order. We will always do everything we can to make sure that we can reasonably accommodate people who have those types of issues.
Okay, because I know they leave, they come pretty late, like May, and then they're gone before October. So, so they should just, as soon as they get their letter, make a phone call.
Yeah. And that's something, actually, that's an excellent point. We can make sure that we go over that during the public information meeting and also put that information on our website, that if someone is typically gone, they should reach out to us and we would certainly bump them up to the front of that replacement list schedule.
Thank you. Okay, Leanne, did you have anything further that you wanted to? Thank you for the going through the disconnection protocol. I appreciate it. Hopefully it won't happen.
Hopefully not.
Okay, then I guess we are ready to move on to 9F, consider resolution 2021-12 related to the replacement of sidewalks and carriage walks in 2021. Another one for Director Butchlick.
Still me. This is just a housekeeping measure. This is required to allow us to special assess that work. It's essentially the same resolution that you've passed multiple times in the past, simply with dates and names updated.
I'll move to approve resolution 2021-12, a resolution related to the replacement of sidewalks and carriage walks in 2021.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Trustee Amenta, seconded by Trustee Warren. Is there a discussion on this item? I can't see Trustee Ursink. Trustee Bachers. No, seeing none. Clerk Bruckman, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Bachhorst.
Yes.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Amenta.
Aye.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Ursink.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. And new business 9G, consider ordinance 30. Should that be 3023 or 2023? Is that correct?
30 is correct.
3023, an ordinance amending the parking regulations on North Larkin Street, North Newhall Street, and North Bartlett Avenue between East Glendale Avenue and the North Village border. Is this which staff? Director Butchlick again?
Still me. Nope. Yep. It's
Okay.
still me. Last one, I promise. I promise this is the last one.
Shine. Keep it up. You're doing
All
great.
right. So in the 4,600 blocks of Larkin, Newhall, and Bartlett, which is the very short portion of the block between Glendale Avenue and the North Village limits, there are currently no parking restrictions. They're quite narrow streets. And in fact, the recent transportation and parking analysis does recommend or does support parking restrictions on one side to facilitate traffic movement and use of those or through traffic from larger vehicles, including public works vehicles and emergency response vehicles. The Village of Whitefish Bay recently implemented permanent no parking zones along the east sides of their portions of those blocks and requested that the Village of Shorewood do the same. We've had similar requests from North Shore Fire Department, as well as I actually had a formally written request from one of the DPW staff. And you see the pictures that he took with the garbage trucks in your packet. So the ordinance before you for your consideration tonight implements a permanent no parking restriction along, I believe, the west side of those streets. I'm sorry, it would be the east side of those streets.
Okay, thank you. I don't know, I saw Director Griepentrag was in on this a little bit, and Chief Nemmer. Did anybody else have anything else to add or raise your hand, or does a trustee have any comments? Discussion, Trustee Warren?
Yeah, I'm comfortable making a motion. I move the adoption of ordinance 3023.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Warren, seconded by Trustee Ursink. Trustee Amenta, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. What is our so south of Glendale, right? And going down to, well, Bartlett goes past the school. What are the parking? What's the parking restriction currently on Bartlett, Newhall, and Larkin?
South of Glendale, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're consistent. I believe that the restriction on Bartlett is different simply because the school is on the west side of that block. Our standard winter restrictions would actually be the opposite. But because Whitefish Bay made the move first, we're following we're following the restriction that they set.
So,
And the-
so in Shorewood, you can park, winter, you can't park on one side of the street. But
Correct.
outside of the winter months, you can park on both sides of the street.
You can, and it's quite narrow, and it's quite problematic, as you can see from the photos.
Yeah, I mean, but so with our parking and transportation plan, this is like what, a 24 width street? I mean, how many?
Yes,
Oh.
I believe they are. I believe all three of them are 24.
So these are, I mean, these are, when we talked about alternate side of the street parking, I think these were streets that we said we were not going to be able to do alternate side of the street parking.
That is correct.
So the ultimate endpoint for these streets is no parking on one side and parking year round on the other side, and then some kind of winter, you're going to have to move in the winter for snow removal. You're just going to have to be off the street for snow removal.
I don't believe that any of these blocks have. I believe the only block and the only street segment in Shorewood that has that requirement that you need to remove your car during a snowfall is the Boulevard section of Menlo.
But I mean, we talked about, when we've had our many and extensive discussions about parking, we've talked about if we allow overnight parking, then there has to be, and we have a snow emergency, and I think frankly we saw it when we had all that snow in February, March. You know, there were when people are parked in the street, it becomes really difficult to remove snow. So we don't have an option. If we can't do alternate side of the street parking, we don't have an option for snow removal, other than if we do what Milwaukee does and say it's a snow emergency, put your car somewhere else so we can clear the street. So I guess I feel like we never really got all the way through all these issues, and we said, oh, we'll talk about it in June after we've had 6 months. We've also had a number of complaints from residents and issues that residents have brought up, including, I thought, a very valid complaint from a resident of, I have a parking permit and he, I think, is on Lake, and so did have to move his car. Well, you have to move your car either way every night, even if you're staying on one side of the street. And this resident was like, I'm going on vacation. I'm not going to be here. I don't want to get a ticket every night for not moving my car. And that resident was told, you have to wait till June. So I really don't understand why we're telling residents, you know, you can go pound salt and we'll deal with you in June. But now, you know, so if we're dealing with it in June, let's deal with it in June. I don't feel that it's fair to say to residents, you can wait till June, but we're going to make this change and that change and the other change, even though we're saying we're not making any changes. So I'm in favor. I mean, I'm going to vote no, because I think we need to be consistent in how, you know, service to residents is first. That's what this government, that's what village government is about. That's what people pay taxes. It's service to residents. So to say to residents, you can wait till June, then okay, this can wait till June too. That's my opinion. I'm voting no.
Okay, is there any other comment? Seeing none, I'm sorry, we had a motion, Clerk Bruckman? Or Trustee Carpenter?
Trustee Ursink has his hand up too.
Yeah, I think Trustee Ursink did too. I just want to clarify it. What we potentially are voting on is just from the border of Whitefish Bay to Glendale, just though, I mean, in some places it's just a couple houses.
In most cases, I believe it's like 2 in a portion of a parcel.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you. Sorry.
Trustee Ursink?
You know, off topic, I would just like to ask if everybody in the meeting here could use either a headshot or their name only. I think using, you know, using pictures is just, I don't know, kind of disrespectful to our meeting right now. So if everybody could just potentially use a headshot or use their name, I think that would be respectful to our board.
In your more discussion about the issue that we're discussing here,
I'd like to say something, Trustee Stuckabrand.
Trustee Bauer first.
Yeah, this is just to what to Arthur said. So I appreciate what you're saying. I think all of us on this call know what he's alluding to. And we all want to maintain a level of professionalism. So I appreciate you sticking up for me and President Rozek in this regard. And I'm fine with what is displayed there. I think it's, let's just put it this way. I've dealt with a lot worse on this board over the last, specifically the last 3 years, but I do appreciate where you're going. So thank you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion. Do we have a motion on this?
No, I do need a motion.
Hi, is there a chance for residents?
Yes. Could you
I would
get your name and address for the clerk, please?
Doreen Larson, 4610 North Newhall. So I'm in favor of this change. The street is quite narrow. Our car has been hit in the past by a Shorewood plow. That was years ago, but I do agree that it's just you know, 2 or 3 houses on each of these streets that would be impacted. And I do think it would be a positive change for at least my street on Newhall.
Okay, thank you for taking the time to participate this evening.
Yeah, I almost fell asleep, so kind of late in the day, but I'm glad I was able to weigh in.
Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion?
I think I did.
I can make them.
I'm sorry.
I thought I already did.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Wes did, and there was, and I
Yeah.
think I seconded, no?
Yeah.
Apology.
Yeah.
Okay, would you please reread the motion, please, Clerk Bruckman?
Sorry, couldn't unmute. To approve ordinance 3023, an ordinance amending the parking regulations on North Larkin Street, North Newhall Street, and North Bartlett Avenue between East Glendale Avenue and the North Village border.
Okay,
Right.
would you
Take roll.
please?
Trustee Ursink.
Aye.
Trustee Menta.
No.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-1.
Okay, thank you. And moving on then to 9H, consider 4th of July parade and fireworks. I believe, is this Assistant Manager Burkhart?
Yeah, I'll be taking this one.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Trustee Stokebrand. So today we're asking for you to consider to move forward with the 4th of July celebration events. We're bringing it forward to today so we can start preparations and plans. Just to summarize some of the information in the packet, we're starting to hear a little bit from the North Shore communities. Recently, Whitefish Bay deciding to move forward with their festivities. Heard from county parks that they will be moving forward and accepting applications to utilize their park space for festivities. Based on the current CDC guidelines, we think that we can expect to social distance or set up a parade that should be fairly safe and meet the CDC guidelines. As far as at Atwater Park, I think that will be a little bit more difficult. So right now, with the motion that I included in the packet, staff is at least asking for the board to be okay with direction with staff seeking out alternative locations, specifically Estabrook Park. I do have a tentative meeting scheduled tomorrow with the county park staff and our firework vendor, Mad Bomber, to look at some site locations at Estabrook Park. So we're just going to see that as an alternative, and if that location could work as a one-time location. But if you also approve moving forward, I'll start working with Sarah Geneve, who we're in the middle of a 3-year contract with, to plan the parade. And just one other note for the parade, typically that's been just along Oakland Avenue. So I would, take a look with Sarah to continue doing it on Oakland Avenue, but I do know that some municipalities are extending the parade route, including into some residential areas, to try to encourage more social distancing. I have no idea if we would end up doing something like that or not. That would be a discussion I would do with Sarah Geneve as well as our DPW and police staff to see if there's a way to do that safely. But there's some things that we can do a little bit differently from old previous parade routes that we feel that could be done in a safe manner. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tyler. Trustees, anyone have a trustee Warren?
Oh yeah, Tyler, just so, and maybe you covered this and I just missed it, but if Estabrook is not successful, I'm assuming you're coming back to us and we're going to talk about how and if we do a fireworks display, if we can't figure out something at Estabrook Park.
Yeah, if you would like me to, I'm open to coming back. If you as a board feel pretty comfortable as far as how you'd want to proceed to with the fireworks, if you know for sure that Atwater, no matter what, would be a no, and Estabrook Park would be the only option, I could work with that direction. If you just want to give me the direction to get more information about that as an option and make a later determination between Atwater and Estabrook, we can also do that. Just know the only con to that would be our communication. There's some communication that we need to try to finalize. Like for instance, Shorewood today, we need to finalize those articles by the end of the month if we want to get that out in June. So if we haven't decided on a location by the end of the month, that information won't be in there. And so we would have to try to find some other alternatives to communicate that to residents, which we can do. So just know the later we wait to make that decision, we'll have to get a little bit more creative as far as how we communicate that to residents.
Okay, thank you.
So we're not definitely having the ice cream party, right? That's just a bad idea at the end, giving the COVID.
Yeah, like for food sharing, I haven't spoken with Sarah Geneve, but on the top of my head, I don't know if that would be.
Yeah, it seems like it would not be appropriate this year.
Yeah, correct.
And so, and honestly, I don't know why this matters, but for some reason, shooting fireworks into the lake doesn't bother me as much as shooting fireworks in the park. For the environment, is there anything, who would clean up, right? I mean, there'd be a mess in the park, right? Where the fireworks, would that be the Mad Bomber would clean up all the, because I know just like if you let off your own fireworks in your own yard, right? It's kind of a mess. You got to pick up a bunch of paper and would there be cleanup at the park and would they take care of that too? I guess that's what you'll find out, right?
Well, I'll definitely talk with Mad Bomber tomorrow as far as an appropriate firing site where, the cleanup would be in a easy to access area. I know typically we've had some of our DPW seasonals go out, I believe, to collect some of the firework that have fallen in the park. So that would be one of the discussions with the county parks, discuss, if that would be on us to do versus any of their staff. I would assume that they would ask us to do that, but that's part of the conversation and information that I would learn.
And is Estherbrook closed this summer or not? Would that be part of this discussion would we close Estherbrook Drive?
The Parkway. Trustee Ursink, do you know, I've heard that they already made a decision to make that an active street for the summer. Is that what you've heard?
Yep. Yeah, that's true. So the farmer's market will be back, and they're going to make that an active street. But I'm not 100% that is like signed, sealed, and delivered right now. But that's the plan, as last I heard.
Okay.
And so you would hope people would walk and bike over, but if somebody wanted to drive over to the fireworks,
there's plenty of parking lots. So there's the south parking lot and the north, so they essentially close it right after the south parking lot. And then the other closed areas, right, is kind of, there's like a middle parking lot by the maintenance. There's a maintenance building there that is also open. So there's 2 lots open, plus by the beer garden is also open. And that could probably be, to be honest with you, it could be a really good space up there because there's such a big open field by the beer garden, and you know, there could be beer involved. So I mean, there's some options up there.
Any other trustees that I'm missing? I get, from my point of view, it's fine to just direct you to, I'm comfortable with saying explore relocating the Firebrooks to Estherbrook Park. And if the County Park says no, I see no reason to come back, because I don't see us finding another location, honestly. Trustee Ursink?
You know, what about River Park? I mean, River Park has a pretty open space. It's probably a little bit, I think it might be a little bit bigger than Estherbrook. Something to consider.
Now, to me, that seems much smaller than Estherbrook.
I meant, yeah, you're right. It's much smaller than Estherbrook. I meant Atwater. You know, it's probably comparable to Atwater.
Yeah, I just think it's too small.
Yeah, you're right. It might be too small.
It's too many people too close together.
I
And
think River Park is bigger than Atwater for sure.
Is it?
You have that whole soccer field, you have the whole baseball field.
Mhm.
I think River Park is bigger, but I mean, can they shoot fire? I mean, because there's trees, and I'm not sure if they can just shoot fireworks anywhere, can they? Because couldn't you set trees on fire? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in my view, this is just something, if we can get the parade back this year, that's it. But you know, good for you for trying. I just think it's just a year that we're still working on coming back. But if anyone wants to make a motion, does anybody else have a comment that I'm missing? Trustee Carpenter?
Yeah, I was just curious, or maybe this hasn't been explored yet with Mad Dog. Mad Bomber, sorry. But is if we were in Estherbrook, I guess, where would they shoot the fireworks off from? Like from that parking lot across the river, or just trying to think where there's no trees to, I don't know.
So yeah, when we go, we're actually the meeting's on site at Estherbrook, so that'd be one of the places I would show to them. And basically, I'm just asking the question to Mad Bomber, if we were to relocate the site here, is there a safe area that you would feel comfortable shooting? And if there's none, then obviously that would be eliminated as an option. If they have a few options that would be available, you know, based on what I'm hearing, the comfortability of the board, I'd be happy to take that back as an option. I think what would be more helpful for me tonight is just knowing kind of where we're at with the CDC guidelines, knowing you as a board, are you comfortable ruling Atwater out as an option, or is that still something that you would want to consider? So for me, at least for the fireworks, that would be that would be helpful to hear. And then just the other thing, with the parade, if we want a parade lineup that's good for the 4th, starting now is the time that we would need to start.
Trustee Warren?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I'm comfortable with the recommended motion. Atwater, it's, you know, let me put it this way: if Atwater is in contravention to CDC guidelines, I think Atwater is just a no-go. I'll just take it off. From my perspective, I would just take it off the table. So yeah, I'm comfortable with the motion in the packet, and I'm certainly not going to vote for anything that is in direct conflict with the CDC issued guidelines.
I would just throw out, Tyler, you know, for anyone who's had a young driver in their house, there's a huge parking lot across the river.
Oh, yeah.
And
That was my comment. I was.
Yeah, that was what I was
Yep,
saying.
there's a giant parking lot, empty, just huge empty space. It's not Shorewood, obviously, but huge empty space over there. So I would say that that would probably be a really great option, even though there's radio towers close by. So I don't know if that affects the radio towers.
That's
and
true.
You know, what could go wrong there, but.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess there's consensus that Atwater is a no-go. I think that if we can't work out the fireworks at Estabrook, people are comfortable with not having fireworks for one more year, and we'll take what we can get. Is there a strong feeling about changing the parade route? Honestly, we can stretch it out enough. I don't see a reason to change the parade route, but Tyler, is that something you feel strongly? You get.
Oh, no, I mean, if we can keep it the way it is, I mean, with DPW and police, you know, we have a strong understanding of how to set that up safely.
Yeah.
And I think some other municipalities are changing their parade route because I don't think they have as long of a business district as we do on Oakland there. So I feel like that's another reason why they're changing their route a little bit. It's something that I'll still talk with Sarah on and get her opinion. And if we feel we need an open discussion about that, we can. But my honest opinion is I think that we would be okay with how we've had it.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Ursink?
I just like to make a motion. I would agree also with, I think there's probably a lot more space if we just go down Oakland like in years past. I think there's more opportunity to space out down Oakland. So, but I would like to make the motion. And I move to authorize staff to move forward with planning efforts for a 4th of July parade celebration and to explore relocating the fireworks to Estabrook.
I'll second.
A motion by Trustee Ursink, seconded by Trustee Warren. Is there any further discussion from the trustees or any discussion from anyone else at the meeting?
Yep, I would just ask that, Tyler, you know, if Estabrook does not work out, maybe we just, you know, holistically think of maybe potentially other spaces that could work. I don't know what that is. We don't have a lot of spaces here, but you know, maybe you could talk to the Mad Bombers to see if they would have any recommendations in the village.
Okay.
Okay, Clerk Bruckman, would you, I don't think we need the motion reread, do we? Are we ready to, could you just call the roll?
Yep. Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst.
Yes.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Amenta.
Aye.
Trustee Ursink.
Yes.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Mr. Burkhart.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, number 10, reports of village officials. Moving to item B, trustees. Any trustee have a report?
Yeah, I do.
Trustee Amenta?
I just wanted to take this opportunity at the end of my last meeting to thank Trustee Carpenter and President Rozek, other members of the current board, especially since our election, the 2018 election. Ms. Kylie Miller noted some of the things that have changed in the last 3 years. One of the most important, I think, is that we have adopted a TIF policy. The HRC was reinstated at my suggestion. Our minutes have substance now and describe a little bit of the debate. And actually, when I came on the board in 2015, when I voted, I remember Trustee Maher turning to me because the minute I had voted no on something and it didn't even have my name, it just said the vote 6-1 and it didn't even, and I remember Trustee Maher saying, wouldn't you like it identified that you voted that way? I was like, yeah, I mean, and the minutes were very short and very brief, but that's the level of transparency that there was on the board at that time. I think the police study that this board collaborated on has been a huge breakthrough. The TIF for extending the TID1 for affordable housing has been a huge step forward. I'm happy that we have begun talking about developing a capital plan, and I think we have made progress on integrating our capital plan with our long-range financial plan. Alleys, when I was elected, a big issue for people on the west side was the state of our alleys, which really had not been touched in a meaningful way in decades. And we now have an alley program, and we're actually making progress on alleys. The appointment process changed in May of 2018. We now do a very broad outreach to the entire community, and we did limit terms. So where there were people who had been appointed for and were on committees and commissions for a decade for the CDA with 4-year terms, even up to 12 years. There just wasn't an opportunity for new residents or for new ideas to get onto these committees and commissions. And I really appreciate that President Rozek changed that policy as soon as she came into office. The budgets that this board has approved have been, we pay attention to expenses. We comb through our expenditure budgets, and we've passed lower budget increases than prior boards. Trustee Carpenter has been supportive of reasonable tax increases that have allowed seniors and young families to remain in Shorewood. She's been a really important voice of a younger generation, and I think the generation that we need to start listening to, because they're the people who are going to be here for the next 20 years. She was a leader on mask policy and our approach to COVID, and she's been a real advocate for preservation of housing. So I just want to acknowledge all her contributions. And I want to say about President Rozek, it's too bad she's not here tonight, but one of her main issues was parking, and the parking liberalizing parking, opening up parking was really her initiative and something she has been talking about for a long, long time, and that this board actually moved forward and accomplished that was huge. And she deserves a lot of credit for that. The other thing I want to notice for President Rozek is procurement policy. It's not the most sexy and exciting thing, but again, it's opening up government. It's giving opportunity to younger firms, minority and women firms, to have an opportunity to put in a proposal and get some work. I mean, prior to her advocacy of the procurement policy, no one could remember the last time we had bid out contracts for the village attorney or the village engineer. So there have been some huge changes since 2018. I'm proud of those changes. I'm proud of Trustee Carpenter and President Rozek, and I thank them for the time we've spent together on this board. I just want to say too, when I was first elected, I always felt if people knew what was being discussed and knew what was on the table, whether it's our comprehensive plan, whether it's a TIF for a particular project, whether it's approval of a project, that if the information was out there and people would have a real opportunity to give input, then at least we would know we were representing and doing what people wanted us to be doing. The CDA has made big changes in prioritizing transparency and public information, and I want to give them credit. So anyway, thank you, everybody. I do want to mention that I'm participating in a citizen journalism site, shorewoodnewsroom.com. And I hope that you guys will tune into that for stories on local issues. And I've started a podcast called Exceptionally Shorewood. We have 3 podcasts out already. You can access that podcast from shorewoodnewsroom.com. And I hope that some of you may want to come on the podcast and talk to us about what's going on in the future. I wish everybody the best of luck. I'm very happy to be moving on, happy to have had the time, but happy to be done. And best of luck to all of you.
Thank you, Trustee Amenta. Trustee Ursink and then Trustee Carpenter.
I really wanted to thank the 3 trustees that are leaving, Trustee Carpenter, Trustee Amenta, and President Rozek, for their time, their service to this community. We didn't always see eye to eye, and we mostly disagreed, but I think that's really valuable, and local local government. I think what they all brought to this board was invaluable, and what they bring to our community is invaluable as well. So I know that they'll continue to to be there working behind the scenes. Much appreciation to them, and hopefully we'll see you guys at the bike races, the feast, or the fireworks.
Thank you. Trustee Warren and then Trustee Carpenter.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Trustee Ursing's sentiments. Thank you to President Rosick, Trustee Menta, Trustee Carpenter. I remember when I first thought about applying to the board, and I came to a meeting I hadn't been in a couple of years, and I was just so impressed by the level of dedication, by the level of intellect, by working through the issues closely and carefully, and the way that you exemplified all of those things. It's been a pleasure working with all of you. Again, nobody on this board agrees with everyone on everything all the time, but part of our strength is in our diversity of viewpoints. And I've learned a lot from you three over the years, and thank you so much for your service. Best of luck in the future.
And Trustee Carpenter?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. I've really enjoyed serving on the village board for the last 3 years. And I found it to be really gratifying and helping me grow personally and professionally. So I will miss serving on the board and serving our community. I'm proud of what we've accomplished. And I know hasn't always been easy, but I'm still committed to finding ways to serve Shorewood. And I wish the next board very much success in all endeavors. So thank you.
Thank you. And I would just echo the comments of Trustee Warren and Trustee Ursink. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your service, because after a year like this, I have a great appreciation for how hard it is. And with that, item C, Manager Ewald, do you have anything?
No report.
No report. All right, and then do we need to move into a closed session tonight?
Yes, there was a link sent out earlier today.
Okay, so do we just take a vote to move into closed session?
Yep, so you have to read that really long motion and then state the time. And
Okay.
I'm not sure if, before you do that, I'm not sure if anyone had items for future consideration. I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Clerk Bruckman. Does anyone have an item for future consideration? I'm scrolling here to see hands. Seeing none, I will read number 12, closed session. The village board will adjourn into closed session upon motion duly made pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.851C to discuss the annual performance evaluation of the village manager.
Yes, I move to, I think we still need a
I think we just need a second.
Oh, I'll second that.
Okay, a motion and a second, and we need to call the roll on this, Clerk Bruckman. Okay, would you please do so?
Yes. Trustee Menta.
Aye.
Trustee Ursink.
Aye.
Trustee Backhorst. Trustee Backhorst. Welcome back. Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Trustee Backhorst. I see her on, but she's not responding. So motion passes 5-0.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't. Yep. Aye.
Okay, 6-0.
Hey, Sarah, where's the link to this?
Rebecca
calendar.
sent it today, so it should be in your trustee email today.
Wes, if you go to the calendar, so I think it was sent out as like a calendar.